Welcome to the Call to Action podcast with Nicole Magic, where conscious awakened leaders listen and action takers are rewarded. Join us for the insightful wisdom of today's special guest with an irresistible offer. Hello, everybody. This is Nicole Magic with the Call to Action podcast, where professional service providers and strategists share their wisdom. We value everyone's time and energy, so let's get going with it. Welcome, Ramona. I love that you're here with me today. We do a lot of the same types of things, but your specialties are in different areas. So I love having guests on that are very complementary and things like that. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, please?
Thank you, Nicole. Yes, I'm really happy to come and talk with you and learning about the work that you do. I feel like we're a good complement in many ways in how we support women. I'm a women's personal empowerment coach, and I specialize in the Gentle Trauma Release method. So where this really comes up is when women need support to move through what's holding them back. This may not necessarily be in their business, but it can be their personal lives, their relationships, and how they show up for their body. And by working with the body to release the survival responses of trauma and the emotions and just these involuntary responses that are basically running your life, I can help women to break through in a way that's more sustainable and deep, not just the surface work, and it's more lasting.
Very nice, and such important work that is. What piece of wisdom would you like to share with the audience today based on the amazing work that you do?
What I would suggest is consider a gentle approach if you've been hustling, pushing, and forcing. And usually with that comes a lot of shame and guilt. I'm not good enough. What I do isn't good enough. We've got to stop that. It's not working. And if you look to the symptoms, which is sometimes chronic procrastination, an inner critic that's just overwhelming, just feeling stuck or even hopeless, pushing and forcing is not the way. And I'd really love to normalize that healing is necessary, especially at stages of growth.
Nice. Quick question. Do you work with any teens or young adults?
Up till now, my clients have been mostly midlife women. Okay. That's who my general market is attracted to me. That's who I see too. I am open to it depending on the situation, because I do think that teens need it. My goal is to just help generations to heal within the family. So you heal the mom, it goes backward and forward. When a child learns how to regulate her nervous system, or a young woman, this helps her to pave the way for healing in her family.
I love that you brought that up, because I talk about that a lot with whether you look at it as the epigenetics or, quote, generational curses. It's all like those beliefs get carried forward. And what you were talking about, the guilt and the shame, those behaviors that go along with the belief that I'm not good enough and whatever, those get carried forward in our children. We also will receive them from our parents and carry them forward down to our children. And that's what I look at as the generational curses, right? And yes. I love that you brought that up, that it heals both ancestrally and propagation down the timeline. So thank you for that piece, because I love when people get into that, the depth of your own healing and how powerful your own healing is for you, and how important it is to take care of yourself, because it does ripple effect.
Completely. Yes. I think too, the point I'd love to make is that when your brain is in survival mode, the part of your brain that's creative and resourceful is simply not functioning. So when you are able to release survival responses that you've carried for a year or 25 years, this frees up your capacity to be creative and be resourceful without being motivated by others. It comes to you without forcing.
Yeah, isn't that such a beautiful thing? And when you see a client get into that space, and then all of the wonderful things that happen in their life afterwards, right? Because when you're in
Yes.
survival mode, you can't be in growth mode. So when you switch those survival mode behaviors off and really get into who you are and that creative self, you allow yourself to fully live. So I love that. I love what you do and how you do it, Ramona. Really, it's you're an awesome person. Your energy is amazing, and I can see a lot of depth within what it is that you do with your clients. So again, I love that you're here today. Uh,
It's so rewarding.
it is. And
Mhm.
what obstacle, because we all have our stories and then why we do what we do, right? So what obstacle became
Yeah.
your greatest opportunity?
Well, if I can share, I kind of went through a series of phases, right? So this ranged from my 30s up until now at 52. So I started out with the body struggles, the comfort eating, the health crash, right? I went through that. And then I went through the personal growth stage. So I started my business with health and then fitness focused and then transitioned into coaching. But what I found is I got to a certain point and I simply could not progress. I was stuck and I was working with a life coach, a business coach, and she referred to it as kind of like blocked or resistance. I knew it was deeper than that. And when I was able to finally break through and really step into more courageously who I am, was when I did the trauma work. I also had a gentle trauma release practitioner work with me while I was doing my practicum. And I knew that this stuff was there, but I was one of those people that doesn't want to wallow, pick up, move on, push past, be strong, get over it. But these were still showing up, not in only how I functioned, but how people received me because the walls were up, right? So when I went through the trauma work myself with gentle trauma release, people commented. They noticed a change in me. I looked different. I felt different. I mean, it's still, I'm not perfect, but this was the culmination of a few different steps of progress to where I can be more courageously myself.
Yeah, that's such a great story because and and the fact that we go through stages. So it's understanding that there is this space, and also being a strong woman, right? So many women out there have to be strong because I'm the one everybody relies on, and I'm the one who does all this stuff for everybody else, and we forget to ask for
Mhm.
help, right? We forget to ask for help, and we push through, carry on, stuff it down, avoid, ignore, or whatever it is that you've got to do to go.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you know, we don't have to do that. And you describing, your release there, it's like, yeah, you don't realize how different you look, and your energy is, how amplified your energy becomes, and how you're perceived by other people when you're working so hard. It's like I like to say it's kind of like your phone. If you're running all these scripts in the background, your battery gets depleted so quickly. And if you're running all these
Yeah.
scripts in the background to stuff it down, push through, carry on, be strong, don't show the weakness, it's you're depleted in all these other areas. And it shows through in everything that you do.
Yes, it takes a great deal of energy to manage your nervous system when your
Mm,
body is fighting survival responses. Even though on the outside you look, sometimes the women who look the most together are the ones who are carrying trauma, because that's also a survival response to do all the things and be all the things and take care of all the things on the inside. They're collapsing.
mm.
So this is so common with the women I work with. And I mean, you can still be a strong woman, but whole,
Yeah,
healthy.
whole,
Yeah.
healthy,
On
vibrant.
the inside. Yeah.
Yes, full of life instead of
Yeah.
stuffing it all down, right? So, what is your favorite mindfulness practice?
There is a couple things I could bring up. So one is, if a big one is, women have a hard time feeling their emotions. So it's like either numb out or distract, or it's all anxiety. Everything is anxiety. And what I discover with a lot of my clients is that behind what they're perceiving as anxiety, it's just another emotion that's just not being named and given some space. And sometimes that's repressed anger. Sometimes it's grieving, right? So there's different emotions. And sometimes the anxiety says, I have a bodily response and I don't know what to do with it. So sometimes if you can just sit with it and name it and allow it some space, you won't become the emotion. So anything that connects you to your body, even briefly, to acknowledge and feel so that you can eventually release. I mean, releasing intense emotions attached to trauma is not a DIY job by any means. However, in your day-to-day life, it's important to notice and feel. And I'm the same way. Like, my go-to response subconsciously is to dissociate. And I won't realize, why am I so snappy? And then I sit down and I realize I need to cry. Something is upsetting me. I'm grieving. You know, it's just sit with it and name it and feel it, allow it to flow through, and try to give it a name. You might have to play with it. It's not about analyzing, it's about perceiving.
I love
Perceiving
that
what
you
is in
said
my
that.
body. Yeah, it's not analyzing, labeling. We do enough of that, and it's usually wrong. So sitting with it, naming with it, allowing it to release, and then do something that makes you feel good. You don't have to stay that way for 4 days straight. Just allow it to be felt and named, and then do something that makes you feel good and changes your physical state, which is why I love things like lifting weights or getting out in nature.
Right. And,
Yeah.
it's that whole feeling through the emotions is super important. And I talk about that with my clients too, because there are women out there, and men too. Um, but most of our clients, both of us are women. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of women out there that are not in touch with those emotions, and they're not
No.
shared. And I'll ask you this question too, and I'll kind of put my 2 cents in on that is, um, what do you think about, what would you say to somebody who really has such a hard time tapping into those emotions? Um, because for me, I think any amount of tapping in, even if, like, it's kind of like um, working out and, muscle, building a muscle, right? Because just tap in and just feel it, allow yourself to feel. And like what you said, don't analyze, just sit in it and ask yourself a bunch of questions. Where does it feel in
Mhm.
my body? What am I feeling? Am I feeling one thing in particular? Do I feel a whole bunch of stuff? Is this familiar, unfamiliar? Those types of things. And just let it be what it is, because the next time you'll be able to go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper until you can fully feel and process through to release.
Yeah, it depends on the woman and what she's been through, because some of the clients I've worked with, they're not able to safely be in their body just yet.
Mm.
It's too much. This is how they stayed safe and went through very painful and difficult things. So one thing I'll mention with gentle trauma release, this is working with the body and releasing trauma on a bodily level. So once that is cleared, you can feel safer. And sometimes the emotions will naturally be felt right away. You shift right into grieving, which is usually a next step. But what I would suggest is the first survival response we have as mammals is the social engagement. That is the first thing. So this is why one person might go through a painful experience and be okay, and another person no. Because what kind of support did they have going through this? Were they validated, heard, and cared for and nurtured, or were they shut down and gaslighted? So sometimes that first thing is social engagement, where you see someone, you can see it in their face, their eyes, their expression, how they look at you, how they talk to you, their body language. Seek the safe people. That is the first thing. To feel safe, to feel is being with safe humans. We are meant to heal with people. That would be the first thing. If you just can't connect, you may not have the capacity to feel your emotions just yet. And that would be the first thing. So part of the work I do with Gentle Trauma Release is the human connection. It's not a DIY job. You need a safe place.
So with that, because I'm listening to you and hearing what you're saying, and really seeing some differences in, people that I work with, and the people that you work with some big traumas and things like that.
Yep.
Now, if somebody was asking themselves, do I need to work with Ramona?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is a good question for them to ask themselves to say, maybe I should take that next step and reach out?
What I would suggest is rather than trying to label, well, I've had trauma, because this just isn't the case. Most people don't recognize, or they minimalize. And trauma is simply a survival response from a perceived threat that felt inescapable at the time. So this might be as simple as not being able to ever express your emotions to your parent. It's not necessarily what you might think is like the big five, right?
Yes.
What I would suggest is look to these symptoms. Do I feel like I can be myself? Does my inner critic disable me constantly? Am I stress eating? Can I manage my health, or is it always a disaster trying to manage my body? How am I in relationships? Am I able to hold boundaries, give and receive? Or am I overgiving, or am I blocked off? So in any aspect of your life, look at where it is the struggle is, or the lack, or the frustration, or even hopelessness. And look to, is this something that keeps coming up? Is this something I can't move through? Because I feel that the people you're working with are in a different place in their journey, or perhaps have been able to address what they need to heal to move forward. But when there's a loop that keeps replaying, and it feels like the past is going to repeat in the future, the symptoms of not feeling resilient, resourceful, or creative. This may be just a one-off, like say after a random thing like a disaster or an illness, or maybe because of other experiences. Look to the symptoms, because it's not your job to figure out what might be behind it. Because sometimes I have to sit with a woman for a little bit for it to even come up to their awareness. So just look to the symptoms.
Yes.
So I feel resilient and resourceful.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's super golden nugget right there. So rewind and listen again. Okay, so now for the final question. What is your irresistible call to action for our action takers today? Because I know that you have something very special.
Well, if this question you asked me, this ties into that. So I have a download, that you can receive to explore this and connect the dots on your own. And it will list all the most common physical, emotional, and cognitive symptoms of trauma, and for you to explore and connect the dots and wondering, when this symptom showed up, what was going on in my life. And then you'll have the opportunity, if you wish, to connect with me to talk about it more and explore this, or to be notified of deeper dive workshops that I have coming up.
Excellent. And for everyone listening, everything is in the description. Ramona, do you want to just say your website?
Okay, yeah, it's RK, as in Ramona Kossowan, rkcoaching.ca.
Nice. And okay, so all of that is in the description. Don't forget to listen to the Call to Action podcast, where conscious awakened leaders listen and action takers get rewarded. Thank you so much for being here, Ramona. And I'd love to hear your favorite takeaways from this call here today, because there are a lot of golden nuggets here. And give us a comment. And thank you for listening. I'm Nicole Magic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It.
And have a spectacular day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone, and thank you for listening. I hope you found today's episode insightful and invaluable to elevating your own business.